So yeah, as folk join on the call, let them in, but I just want to take some time to introduce myself and this design competition, our showcase here. My name is Roberto de Mata. I'm an upper division advisor with EMBD. I'm also the co-coordinator of the Designers Without Boundaries program. So this showcase is the culmination of, first of all, an small idea that has really grown over the last couple of months. Oh, Sarah's joining us. It started off as how do we best, engage and challenge the kind of creative energy that our environmental design students and DWB students more specifically have, and also in our lens that we're mindful of the current social political climate that we're in with COVID and the kind of the social inequities that have always been there, but COVID has definitely brought to light. So we wanted to present that challenge to the EMBD community to engage in this design work and to know that DWB is a place where we actively, engage on these issues and work on outcomes and engage the community. So with this idea came a lot of trial and error, a lot of planning, a lot of feedback that involved folks from all levels. So students foremost, staff, faculty and alumni at certain points. And honestly, some of the faculty that were involved, they did tremendously about getting this thing going and hitting the ball running. So we had submissions, we had evaluations, we have winners, and now we're at a point where we want to present this work and hopefully go ahead and take this work and have a design competition again going forward, as we can see a lot of people found this to be very useful for both as a fun exercise and then in their professional development. And what we hope to definitely include this in your portfolio for those who have submitted. Cool. So with that further ado, I also want to give a chance for our DWB Executive Board to introduce themselves, and I'm also going to share a presentation that we have for us. Let's see, share. Okay. So if the executive board could do their introductions, and then we can go into, Fernando and I can introduce DWB as a program. How does that sound?
All right, I could go ahead and introduce myself, and then I'll hand it over to Julia and Fernando. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Victor Gonzalez. I am the Executive Chair for Designers Without Boundaries. This is my second year as serving as the Executive Chair. And so I'm just really excited to get through some of these designs and highlight the winners of the first ever DWB design competition. So again, thank you guys for being here, and I'll let Fernando introduce himself now.
Yeah, thanks so much, Victor. Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Fernando Martinez. I'm the other co-coordinator for Designers Without Boundaries. I work alongside Roberto and the rest of the DWB board to connect with you all, to put on these amazing programs, to learn together and grow as a program here at CU and within environmental design. I'm also an advisor for first and second year students. And then I also work with the recruitment events. And I'm going on to my third year working with Designers Without Boundaries.
All right, and I know one of our board members joined the competition. So Julia, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Julia Rodriguez, and I am a second year in environmental design. And I also serve as the social media manager on the Designers Without Boundaries executive board. And yeah, I was a member of DWB last year, but this is my first year on the board, and it's been great. I love it.
Yeah, so thank you, Julia. And some of our other board members who were unable to be here, Narda will actually be joining us throughout the call, but she's also our secretary, and then Erica is our graphic designer this year. It's both Narda's and Erica's second year coming back and serving on the board.
All right, thanks for those introductions, y'all. So with that being said, I think Fernando has some great context about what DWB is and our program in general. So I'm going to go to back a couple of slides here. All right. Do us well, Fernando. Capture that mission statement.
Okay, yeah. So since this is also our kickoff event, we also want to start off by kind of talking a little bit more about what Designers Without Boundaries is, DWB, who we are, what we stand for, what we do, and how we do it. So let's start off with the mission statement. So what's our purpose? Essentially, is what the mission statement is. And our purpose is to enrich the academic experience of students through inclusive excellence and provide opportunities to build community with other students, staff, faculty in meaningful ways that promote a collaborative, cooperative, and supportive environment. And so when we think about this mission statement, I can't think of another really good example than our design competition that we just had. I'll let the faculty and some of the students talk more about that, but we think that we're achieving this mission statement through all these great opportunities like this design competition that we hosted.
Fernando, I don't mind going over this one.
Sure, go for it. Yep.
Yes, so essentially, DWB, Designers Without Boundaries, is kind of a multifaceted program. And foremost, it's a learning community seeking social change. So in inception, it started as an academic scholarship program for first generation underrepresented communities. So like I said, first generation students of low incomes, LGBTQIA students, international students, all these type of underrepresented student identities for them to be supported and to, create a sense of community and sense of belonging for EMBD and within our program specifically. Now we're structured with 3 pillars by which we engage each other in the community. So we have community building, community service, and career and professional development. And as Fernando said, the design competition captured pretty much all 3 of these pillars in one way or another. So our recent initiatives, since say this entire past year have been really focusing on the Black Lives Matter movement, as we have seen as events have transpired and have kind of brought student input and advocacy on these issues foremost. We want to be sure that's a space that we can recognize that the issues that are coming across the country are also in a way kind of reflected in the experiences of EMD and DWB students. We're also very much partnered with EMD administration with their support on social equity and representation. A good many of us are on a diversity and inclusion task force, which we'll explain later, by which we are working actively on improving the climate and evolving the climate of EMBD to be more welcoming, more inclusive, more equitable for all. And of course, having these critical conversations as they come. So we've actually successfully initiated a podcast series as part of our YouTube channel that kind of is a platform by which to talk about big things such as, racism in the design industry, to local things about what are resources students can use for the fall. So there's kind of a mix match, varying topics by which we talk about. So we'll also give some context to that podcast later in the presentation as we conclude. All right, Fernando, you can go over the scholarship requirements.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like Roberto was saying, one big important component of DWB is the scholarship component to it. And so a lot of our students that do participate in DWB receive a scholarship. But you don't have to receive a scholarship to participate with us in all our great events. For those students that do receive a DWB scholarship, it's $1,500 an academic year, and that's divided between fall and spring semester. So every fall semester, a student would receive $750. And then the spring semester, they would get the remaining $750. In order to qualify to renew your scholarship or to apply for this scholarship, we have set here some requirements. So one of the first ones is for our students that are receiving this scholarship is that they should attend the orientation and all and any welcome events that we do have. So this is one of the welcome events. So events such as these. We also have an annual DWB Spring Recognition event. This Spring Recognition event is for our graduating seniors. So we host an event for them as a recognition of all the great work, all their 4+ years that they've devoted so strongly to their education, and we want to celebrate with them and their families. So attending that recognition event. At least 2 DWB events per semester is what we require. On average, DWB hosts about 2 DWB events every month. So we are only requiring 2 per semester. And we require that because we acknowledge how important they are. Students are taking away professional development experience, volunteer experience, connecting with others, and just so much more. So 2 of those events. We require the students to meet with their advisor at least once per semester. And that's because there's a lot of important conversations that come about meeting with your advisor. Anything from a minor to adding classes to dropping classes, connecting with resources on campus, how to best study for tests. You know, we're just really trained to really help you in all aspects of your education. We also really believe that academics is one of the most important things as well. So we also ask our scholarship recipients to complete a midterm check. That's when we prepare a packet with all your classes, and all your instructors or faculty are listed under that class. And we ask you to go and have a conversation with those faculty members. We want you to connect with them, talk to them, find out how you're doing in class. If you're not doing well, it's better to know earlier versus later to really turn it around if you need it. If not, at least you got to connect with your faculty member and get to know them a little bit better. New this year, we are asking our scholarship recipients to apply to at least 1 ENVD scholarship when the application opens. And that's because we've seen historically in the past that some of our students are not applying to these scholarships, and our students are more than qualified for these scholarships. We definitely don't want you losing out on some of those scholarship monies. We really want to see your names in those applicant pools. So we really value that. And then finally, we want you to have at least a 3.0 cumulative CU GPA. So those are all the requirements. Pass it back to Roberto.
Thanks, Fernando. So the follow-up is, you know, this definitely seems like a structured scholarship program, and it is, but we also understand that what we represent and stand for includes a lot more than our scholarship students. So we want to be sure that we can capture, you know, the entirety of EMBD and all the different, you know, identities and student kind of voices that we have that are active in this. So we've also asked, you know, actually not asked, but we've put out a participation form, which, Fernando, if you can mind putting that in the chat here soon, about, you know, capturing your involvement and, you know, officially kind of stating that I want to be a member of the Designers Without Boundaries communities, because what we had beforehand is, you know, folks coming in and out of certain meetings and informally, but we want to make sure that, yeah, your membership is captured, you're passionate about these issues. We want to be sure that we have a list by which we can regularly send opportunities and events like these your way.
Roberto, and then just to add to that, this participation form is if you are not receiving the DWB scholarship, but you would still like to join DWB, either you identify with who DWB is intended for, and if you don't identify with those identities, but you still consider yourself an ally of the above, we strongly encourage you to fill out the form so that you can be included in our messaging.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up, Fernando. That's important as well. And if you haven't caught on, our social media is really awesome. It's popping, and that is on board to our amazing executive board and the leadership and the direction they've taken, kind of that free creative will in that process. So we've really seen a ramping up of our social media presence, with a lot of our posts capture, you know, several hundred folks, and we're getting a lot of followers, you know. So that's definitely a platform that we've taken advantage of in this remote learning environment. So all of those are there. I'm sure we could provide links to at least our YouTube channel. So either Victor or Julie, if you could get that on the chat at some point, that'd be great. All right. So we've kind of covered our executive board. So unless there's anything else to be said, I think I'm going to go ahead. All right. So now let's start kind of going to what we really came in for is really discussing the design competition. So real quickly as an overview.
Go ahead and give the overview.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the main piece for today's event, the competition. So the competition, the planning, I'm just going to give a quick overview on how the planning went. So this was an idea brought up by Lauren at the beginning of the summer, just pretty much coming up with different ways for our community to stay connected and interact throughout the summer. And so this was an idea proposed by her, and then we just jump started and went forward with it. And from a student perspective, I would just say that it took a lot more planning and a lot more iterations than what I thought it would, like a lot more time and everything. So I give a lot of respect to our instructors and when they put together studio courses and all that, because it was definitely a hassle putting it together. But the purpose of it was to be really bring our EMBD community together. That was the whole purpose with the whole teams idea, just because we know how the whole COVID situation is really like making us stay in this virtual setting, but also like not being so as connected as we usually would have been in person. So we came up with that idea of the teams, and then we also wanted to make it really interdisciplinary. So all across the EMBD spectrum, we didn't want it to just be like architecture or landscape architecture. So we found different case studies that could be utilized for the competition and pretty much until everybody's talent and perspective. And alongside with the competition, we had two amazing faculty members, Sarah and Shaheen, help Lauren and myself out a lot in like what to consider and what to make it a really valid competition. So I will go ahead and let Sarah or Shaheen kind of give their perspective on how the planning went and like the overall outcome. So whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I go first. So thank you, Victor and Fernando, Roberto. I think Lauren is not here, but I should thank her as well. Thanks for providing this opportunity for students to at least, I mean, in this very unusual situation that we experience, different events, COVID-19 and the social injustice event that happened recently. So you provided this opportunity for students to think more about these events, relate them together, and basically develop this empathy towards marginalized communities that are mainly, that are most importantly affected by COVID-19. So I got to know DWB last year. I believe it was in May 2019. Victor, it was in my class. I think it was the environmental design studio. So Victor invited me to attend one of the DW events, and that was one of the best events in EMVD that I attended, and I was so. I mean, it was very touching, and I enjoyed it so much. I always wanted to have this opportunity to become more active in this group. And thank you for approaching me and giving me that opportunity to collaborate with you on this project. So what we did, basically, Victor and Lauren did the bulk of things. They, and also Roberto and Fernando. So we had some brainstorming sessions about the topics, and then Victor and Lauren basically designed those assignments or competition prompts. And Shaheen and I, during this process, Shaheen and I gave them a few comments and feedback, and they revised it. But I would say they did a great job. This is designing a competition is a very hard task. That's what we do when we design a studio. So thank you, Victor, Lauren, Fernando, and Roberto. And then I worked with 2 groups of students on 2 case studies. We met twice, I think, with each group. And it was the same process that we have in a studio. Students try to get it to a stage, and we gave them feedback, and then they continued. I should say that I'm impressed by the results. The results are, because most groups that participated in this competition were freshmen. So I've worked with freshmen. I've taught a few studios, and I'm impressed that basically sophomores, after those 3-4 studios, are at this level. That, I mean, the projects were basically great, I would say. So I should thank them for their commitment and for their efforts in the summer, during the summer. But the results are great, and I know that some of them got connected through these projects with community organizations, with the high school, and that I hope that opens up some new opportunities for them, and that leads to more collaboration between the university and communities, so that we can better go through this situation and provide more solutions for the community, more, help them how to plan and design the community and the high school, so that they can offer, basically they can improve their work during this time.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So I will go ahead and let Shaheen give a couple words, and then we will go ahead and give some honorable mentions, and then we will announce who our winner was for the competition. So go ahead, Shaheen, if you're ready.
Oh, I don't need to say anything. I'm so inspired by what Sarah said. I want to participate in a competition, so I hope you guys do another one soon. I'll just add one small thing, and I noticed that you emphasized in the text on the slide, designing with a community rather than for a community. I remember that was one of those conversations in those early framing calls, and I think there was a lot of intention, and that's really important. This being mindful of our role, and there's a lot of critique of, this kind of like this savior model of going in and helping others. But I think, the group that, DWB and Victor and Lauren specifically, in framing this, they were pretty mindful of that and thinking about what kinds of case studies they could choose, where could they choose them in ways that try to circumvent some of the problems with that savior model. And I just want to think this is a good moment for all of us to reflect on that, we're going to go to do work with communities, not just like in that, like doing just work in a community is really bad. It's just like a place for our ideas. Doing it for communities is kind of a little bit better, but it still has that idea of like, we're bringing our expertise to benefit you. But then working with is more kind of seeing like, there is this symmetry of expertise or of interest or of contribution that we can all work together to give. So I just want to highlight that. I thought that was a really fun conversation early on. And yeah, the groups I got to chat with, I was really inspired by your guys' designs. Everything that Sarah said, right on.
All right, thank you so much, Shaheen. All right, Fernando, so if you want to take it away and announce our honorable mentions and our overall winner.
Yeah, thanks, Victor. So speaking of dedication and intentionality, that, you know, based off of what Shaheen said, that makes me think of how thankful we are for the faculty members that did help us with this event. The faculty members met up with the teams to guide them and just review any questions that they might have. Just really checking in on the groups to make sure they were in the right direction, and to provide any feedback to create a really holistic, really intentional project. So thank you so much, Shaheen and Sarah, for doing that, and then also for being here today and sharing your experiences. So I would like to also add that all the teams did such a fantastic job. Oh my gosh, we were tied for the longest time. We tied within DWB. We were talking about who the winner should be, what makes their presentation and work different, more intentional, more holistic. And we couldn't untie. We were just tied for the longest time. We pulled in some alumni to help us find the winner. So that just kind of speaks to the level of how great everyone's work really was. And so we just wanted to mention the honorable, participants. The first one being Team Tree Huggers, and that was made up from Mario Grajales, Jean McLeland, and Brian Nicodemus. So Tree Huggers, you did an amazing job. We really liked all your work, and thank you so much for participating. The next honorable mention was ENVD 0712 or 0712. And that team included Elizabeth Essek, so Liska, Dimitri Fair, and Ella Schrader. Again, your work was incredible. Thank you so much for participating. So those are our honorable mentions. And then now we'll move on to just showing a little bit of their work that they did.
So yes, so our these are the following slides of our honorable mentions, so tree huggers. And then we want to go on to the next one. And then this is showcasing EMD 07112. I could let either of these teams speak and just give a couple words as we move into the main piece of our winners showcasing their design.
This is like a general introduction of our project. Just wonder how we should just explain it.
Yeah, sure. So just general concept, just the overall idea, anything flies.
Okay, yes. So our general idea, we kind of came across since it's such a interdisciplinary project, we were able to consider this smaller scale of architecture, which is just as impactful, and the larger scale as a community. And our major idea is to promote social distancing, but in a way that's still socially engaging, that can be applied during a pandemic and also during residents' normal lives. So we drew that as our vision to create such as houses where we have where houses can be separated into 2 units, and they can use it during a pandemic, or they can also use it where they can have an open courtyard in between and have social engagement. For community-wise, we also added a lot more green spaces that can serve as public space rather than just open space where it currently has mostly for traffic and parking. So that allows people to kind of go out and then having some of these activities such as the whispering dishes where people are engaging, but it's a perfect way to engage socially distant, but you still sense that strong connection. And just some other practical facts of how to mitigate flooding, since this is right by the floodplain. So we have rain gardens near like the southern area. So since the slope is kind of sliding towards south, and those can help retain water and also increase its aesthetics at the same time. Yeah, so those are the ones I can like the major ideas I can think of. If Jean has anything else that she would like to add, please do so if I'm missing anything.
No, I think that was a very wonderfully put synopsis. I don't think I could add anything else. All I can say that it was super exciting to think about design in the small scale in the home and then zoom it out into the community. It was a great thought exercise and a lot of fun. So
Yes, it was definitely a lot of fun and a lot to think about.
yeah.
And I'm glad me and Jean and Mario, we each have a different emphasis that we're studying. So me studying planning and design, Jean in landscape architecture, Mario in architecture. So we each share ideas that all complement with each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you guys. So we will go ahead and pass it on to MVD 0712. Any words from you guys?
Is it just you?
I don't know if it's just me, but hi. Yeah, so our project was really centered around fixing the Ponderosa mobile home community, and instead of like getting rid of the mobile homes like they had planned on, which is like their 10-year plan for the community, actually just reorganizing it, creating a better flow of traffic, allowing for parking on the side streets, allowing for like more room in the community, cleaning up some of the garbage, creating better connections to the road, especially to transit routes, because the walk score for the community was extremely low. And then creating individual outdoor space was huge for us. Yeah.
All right, thank you guys. All right, so now our competition winner being GCT, which is Julia Rodriguez, Caleb, and Theodore. So if you guys would like to actually share your screen, we'll go ahead and stop sharing ours and let you guys walk us through your presentation a little bit more thoroughly and let you guys take it away from here.
Sweet. I'll share my screen. All right, can everyone see this? Okay. So yeah, our project was related to Arapahoe Ridge High School. And what we realized early on about Arapahoe Ridge High School is that it's sort of an alternative high school to students who go to other high schools in the Boulder Valley School District. So what that meant for this project is that it's serving a very unique population who's reliant on the school in ways that other students might not be at other schools. Some examples of that are people relying on the school to have food security, to get the counseling and support they need, as well as to have an environment that's different than other high schools, that's more conducive to their success and individual needs that students have. So what we realized is that with this very special school with students that rely on it in specific ways, we had to make sure that when certain events such as COVID-19 happen, that this school has the potential to be extremely resilient. So instead of thinking about schools in terms of how many people we can fit into the school and how efficient the school is running, it was about thinking how it could be more resilient and how there could be more flexibility designed into the way that we go about the school. So one of the first things that we did is we talked with the principal. Theodore was able to reach out to Principal Bluehorn. And through those conversations, we came up with 3 primary interventions that we believed would help with the flexibility. The first was a urban planning intervention that I sort of led, which was about transportation and access via busing systems as well as multimodal transportation to make sure that students had ways of getting there during COVID-19. The second was sort of an EPOD intervention that Julia led, which was an in-class learning option to make sure that there's safety in classroom settings. And then the final intervention was a landscape architecture intervention led by Theodore that talked about an outdoor learning option. And with those 3 interventions, we discovered that that would be a good place to start to bring more flexibility into the design of the school. So briefly going over the transportation aspect that I led, this idea started out with an issue that we recognized with the school, which is that during COVID-19, there wasn't going to be any busing options for students, and that this school actually serves the entire geographic area of Boulder Valley School District. So it has the most spread out student body. So a lot of the students are extremely reliant on busing. So one of the major aspects of this project was looking at the way that busing would work in a normal circumstance, which is that students would take a bus to their home school. So for example, if I lived in the Fairview district, then I would go to Fairview High School. And then there would be a shuttle that would take me the rest of the way to Arapahoe Ridge High School. But under COVID-19, the Boulder Valley School District would stop busing students. So our solution was to basically combine with the city bus and have the city bus instead basically takes, like students would get on the city bus to certain hubs, and then Arapahoe Ridge shuttles would have to meet them there. This graphic explains that a little bit better, but essentially students would ride a city bus to these designated hubs, which were all within a 20-minute riding radius. And then schools from Arapahoe Ridge would partner with those city buses to then get them the rest of the way to the high school. And then for time's sake, the next aspect of the transportation redesign was about
Caleb, you muted yourself.
I think you muted yourself, Caleb.
All good.
Okay, sorry about that. When was I muted? Like what part did I cut out on?
Just right now.
Oh, okay, sweet. Okay, good. So yeah, this next section was basically talking about the multimodal redesign. So essentially this part I looked at how bike routes could be improved in the area because Arapahoe Avenue, where the school is located, is essentially just this big highway. So even students that do live in the vicinity of it don't really have safe biking options. So, oops. What we did is we kind of redesigned Arapahoe Ridge or Arapahoe Road outside of the high school to be more conducive of these options, which you can see here. And then a really major aspect of the project was also to take some of these back roads in the area and convert them into bike route lanes or biking friendly roads to give more of a reach, I guess, in that multimodal transportation realm. So yeah, that's the overview of that section of the project, and we'll go on to Julia's.
Yeah, perfect. So going into the design competition, and after we decided that we were going to work with the case study with Arapahoe Ridge High School, it kind of got me thinking because obviously in March, when all the craziness happened, we automatically just resorted to leaving campus, and it kind of got me thinking if there was a way like we could stay in the future. If we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last, how can we go back to in-person learning? Is that even a possibility? Next slide. And I think like the main question people were kind of asking ourselves is like, why should we be maintaining this in-person learning during a pandemic? Like, shouldn't we be social distancing? And of course, I think social distancing is so important now more than ever. But at the same time, it kind of got me thinking about the students who were sent home for work to do their schoolwork. Is that really the best option that we have for our students? Do they have the technology needed to take their classes online? Are they old enough to be at home from 9 to 5 if their parents are main providers and working all day? So there's a lot more that goes into it than we can just say, easy, let's send our students home. There's a lot more to that. So next slide. I automatically thought of offices and their cubicles because a private workspace in the midst of a busy classroom or a busy office might just be exactly what Arapahoe Ridge High School needed. But the point of social distancing is to limit at all cost human contact. And with these standard office cubicles, you still have that human interaction. You can still leave your cubicle. If you need to talk to someone, you just go into their personal space. And that is still not something that is going to be okay for this time. But it had me thinking that this is a good start, and how can we alter a modern day cubicle to fit the needs of this pandemic. Next slide. So I got designing, and I was trying to think of a way that students could still sit in their own personal space while still having the ability to talk to their classmates and interact, because that was something that Arapahoe Ridge High School valued so much, that human interaction with their students. So my cubicle has a plexiglass barrier that allows students to still be able to talk to each other while remaining in their space and remaining that social distance of 6 feet. Next slide. So I made it so that the cubicles had wheels at the bottom so you could move them around the classroom. They could be placed into groups if students needed to be working in group projects. Like I previously said, the upper portion of the cubicle is plexiglass, and the remainder of the cubicle is high pressure laminate, which is a strong, durable material found in office material and commercial interiors. Next slide. And as you can see here, they can be placed in groups. And last slide. They can also be placed separately on exam days or anything like that. So overall, these cubicles really just allow students to be in a classroom out of their house. They have more access to technology and materials that in the classroom than they may not have at their homes. And I think it would offer a good temporary, if not permanent, solution to in-class learning during a pandemic. And next up is Theo.
All right. Please let me know if I need to talk louder. Just put it in the chat. With that, I'm covering the outdoor option and looking at learning in an outdoor space. Next. Thank you, Caleb. So at this point in the summer, in August, all the scientific research and studies, while not widely supported or still inconclusive, were clearly
What? Now are you in class? No, I'm still in Designers Without Boundaries thing.
It's not muted, but please mute your mic, please.
I've gone ahead and done that.
Okay.
All right, I'll jump back into it. So all of the studies and evidence at this point in the summer had pointed towards COVID-19 being less of a transmissible disease outside. This was due to the ventilation that constantly changed everything up. And this is why you need really good ventilation in buildings, while outside you have constant ventilation for free of charge. Next slide, please, Caleb. I visited the site several times and was able to do a little bit of site analysis. So if you see on this sketch here, Arapahoe Avenue at the top of the page produces an extremely high level of noise. And when I was looking for an outdoor space to form a classroom, I knew it couldn't be too close to Arapahoe Avenue. In addition, the right side of the building was all parking lot and loading docks, and it was very unfit for any sort of classroom activity. In addition, much of the campus lacked shade areas, which very much decreased the areas that we could work in. Next slide, Caleb. Thank you. However, there was a great little spot by the side of the school that was on a grade and had several shade trees. And I almost thought that it could work just void of anything else and that the natural landscape would be conducive to learning. However, kind of decided that we're going to need a little bit more structure so that people are comfortable outside, so that teachers have the tools they need in order to teach classes, and so that it's accessible for all people. I took inspiration from this next structure, which I believe was developed in England and used as an outdoor learning space for young children. And I like this design and took elements of it to use in our outdoor space, particularly the roof style, because while it blocked a lot of shade, it still allowed sunlight to pass through. It still allowed people to be able to take notes, to be able to see while under the shelter. Moving on to the site plan, I believe. The site is located super close to an entrance of the school, and it has a grade such that it's accessible by ADA and meets all standards. So if you have a wheelchair, you can get up the pathways and come into this outdoor learning space. At the front of the class, there is a board that will be customized with whiteboards or whatever setting a teacher needs to effectively teach a class. And obviously, we still need to practice social distancing outdoors. So while there's 25 seats that are not socially distant, if you block off every other seat and make a checkerboard pattern, then there's still 13 seats available for social distancing. And I took this model because hopefully we won't be in this pandemic forever. and eventually the need will come for more seating. So in the future, the seating is there, but there's an easy solution to blocking off every other seat in order to make seats 6 feet apart during present day. Next slide, Caleb. Thank you. This site lies on a natural grade, and one road to the right leads into kind of a courtyard with some loading docks, but it's very infrequently used, giving the site a good deal of quietness. In addition, Arapahoe Avenue is sufficiently far away that the noise level drops and it does not become a distraction. I liked this natural grade because it allowed the back seats to be raised and allowed the students in those seats to have a better sight line towards the teacher and towards the front of the class. In addition, there were several seats at the front for the teachers should they need to give like a presentation or use video or some sort of video in their class. And the natural shade of the surrounding environment complements this. And in most cases, the shade patterns fall on top of the plastic roof of the structure, which lends a very dappled and neat pattern of light while still not being overly distracting. So this was our outdoor seating option. And yes, thank you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all our participants in the design contest, but particularly our, winning team for having, very carried out a thoughtful and intentional process and having an outcome and be willing to present out their thought process here. So again, thanks Julia, Caleb, and Theodore. With that said, we're kind of closing in on the event and the showcase, but I do want to bring this back to kind of one of the pillars that we always advocate and structure our program, and that is professional development. So, in having done this exercise for our participants, and you can give a simple head nod, but a lot of this was part of a professionalization, exploration of an interest area, but also taking very key professional skills, and particularly for the folks who are rising sophomores who are freshmen formally, kind of really taking this to hands-on current issues. So practices like these outside of an academic setting are, in a lot of ways just as important. And that faculty, your fellow colleagues, and staff are willing to support those interest projects and hopefully continue developing platforms for that. So with that being said, from an upper division advising standpoint, this is great. This is, work that I definitely want to, it wasn't a side project. This should be something that's included in your portfolio to show your growth and show your professional interest. With that being said, I believe Nate joined us on the call not so long ago. If you have any words for our participants and some of the other participants along this practice, that would be great.
Thanks, Roberto. Roberto just shared some wise words for sure. So I just kind of want to echo that. And like, I really enjoyed, I had to jump on late, but I did catch a couple of projects and I really enjoyed them and your sort of exploration of them. And I mean, I think that this is an exercise in taking risks. I mean, you're making your work public, much more public than just, kind of a studio presentation. And I found over the years of doing this, it's really hard to take these kind of public risks. And I encourage you to continue to do that, I mean, as you're presenting projects, as you're finding opportunities to present them in wider forums and just studio presentations. But especially, as Roberto said, in your portfolio, because ultimately, that's really going to be the primary resource that you have to get yourself a job or a great internship while you're still here in school. So make sure that you're taking these ideas and these projects and these things that you have and putting them in a portfolio and sharing them with as wide an audience as you possibly can find. I mean, right now we have a platform, if you go to our Professional Development Services webpage, where you can actually submit your work, and one of our studio instructors will take a look at it, evaluate it, and then get back with you and kind of have a discussion about it. I encourage you to further take these kinds of risks. So I really appreciate everyone who's participated in this and presented their work, and it's risky business, I think, but it's the right fight to be undertaking. So good luck with all that, and great work.
Can I ask a question really quick? I've always wondered how to best put group projects into a portfolio, because you obviously want to showcase your own work, but all work that all the members have done are really important to understanding what the project is.
Yeah, Jean, that's a great question. And employers actually are really keen on seeing that you can work within a group setting, within a design project group setting. So please use that in your portfolio. Please exemplify that in your portfolio. Now, you do have to do some work to try to kind of single out your contribution to the project, which requires some text. I mean, you can and also some permission probably from folks who've crafted graphics, and you have to make that really clear. If it's not your graphics, if it's a team member's graphics, you have to cite that person and their work, and you have to make sure that they're agreeable to having that work in your portfolio. Obviously you want your own work there as well. Sometimes it's clustered in what if you have photographs or renderings or whatever, sometimes it's clustered in to something that you partnered up with somebody else in the group. So if you can just make that, if you can clarify that through text in the portfolio entry, but also really emphasize the idea that, hey, this was a group project, this is the contribution that I made, because like I said, employers are really keen to see that you can operate in a group effectively. So those are strong additions to your portfolio for sure.
Thanks for asking that good question there, Gene, and thanks for the response, Nate. On a kind of larger closing note, another thing I want to add in is, these issues of social inequity, don't think for a moment that these aren't included in what should be a quote unquote professional portfolio. If you're passionate about social equity, it should be very much part of your professional identity. And you should demonstrate that in your portfolio. Don't think for any moment, a certain employer or employers aren't looking for that paradigm. You need to advocate that this is something you want to work on. These are the type of projects that bring out your best work, that you're most passionate about, and demonstrate that not only in your portfolio, but when you go into interviews and, that early kind of hiring phase when you're being brought on to what passions interest you. Oh, this is what I worked on, this is what I keep on doing. So advocate in that sense. And your portfolio is a strong asset to that advocacy. So that being said, I think we have enough professional services talks, but really do check out Professional Development Services webpage. Contact Nate and myself with these questions. And as you transition onto our roster, for those under division students here, or lower division students, we're more than happy to have those conversations. With that being said, I do want to do a plug-in for our social media. Once again, this episode will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. It'll be captured on our Instagram, and given the current remote environment, it's the best way to kind of look at what DWB is working on. Opportunities like the design competition, look out for those right there, and follow us, and we'll gladly love to keep working with you. And if you're new to all of this, fill out that participation form on Qualtrics that Fernando had sent out, or reach out to him or myself with any type of inquiries. That being said, does anyone else on the executive board have any closing remarks?
I want to say thank you to everybody that joined us on the call today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, same here. Thank you everyone who joined us today, and we're looking forward to hosting more of these competitions in the future.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, I think that'll close out our program. Thanks for participating, and yeah, we look forward to having you as part of our following programs. And also, our next program will most likely be a podcast episode 5, hard to believe, of our podcast, where we will be, in short, talking about imposter syndrome, rejection, and failure, and how that helps build a professional identity as well. So we look forward to having that. So watch out for that. That'll be towards the end of September. Okay. Awesome. With that said, we are done, and feel free to leave the call and enjoy the weekend, enjoy the Labor Day weekend, and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cool.